Welcome, everybody, to Science and the Mystical, and one of my favorite platforms to play with. Today, I have a wonderful, wonderful lady with us, Denise Turnbull, and she is an energy light worker, a healing facilitator, Reiki Master, and certified body, spirit, mind, no, mind, body, spirit coach. I got it in the wrong order. So, um, she dabbles a lot in crystals and cards and essential oils, and I just want to hear all about it. And I'm excited for you as listeners to enjoy this conversation as much as I know I will. So welcome, Denise.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really honored to be here.
Well,
and a little bit scared too.
That's okay. Being scared is totally part of it. And that adrenaline will, gives us a bit of a nudge, a push, and that's very human of you. And thanks for saying so.
Yeah, trying to be vulnerable here.
Yes, always. So we met in a different environment from this, and there was just a really beautiful part of you that stayed with me in terms of my memory of you. And this was like way back at the very beginning. And we see each other on occasion in that capacity, and it's always really special and really sweet. And that's such a testament to who you are as an individual. And what really punches through is your connection to spirit. And each time I find out something really fascinating about you that you've kept as a little hidden treasure, such as your artwork, which we'll talk about, it's amazing to me. So sometimes the most humble individuals, such as yourself, are just a plethora of gifts that are just amazing and inspirational. So I'm so happy that you're here to share this today.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, you're so welcome. So we're calling this Finding Yourself. We were going to call it Coming Home, but that's often associated with deathing. And indeed, this is kind of deathing, but we decided Finding Yourself was really appropriate. So maybe what you can do now is describe your offerings so that people have an understanding of what it is you do.
What does I do? I consider myself a transformational coach. I work one-on-one with clients who choose to take a different path because things in their life aren't working out the way they had wanted them to or expected them to work out. I teach so much about energy and frequency and vibration. I teach people about how we create our own reality based on our own beliefs. And by changing our beliefs, because the beliefs are often created when we had no cognition or discernment of what is right or wrong in early childhood. Those beliefs have stayed with us, and we carry them into adulthood. They actually dictate how we behave in certain situations. And so some people, they come to a point in their life saying, this isn't working. I go through all these different relationships and I have the same kind of partner that I choose, and the same scenarios keep happening, and it breaks up the same way. Like, what's going on? It's only when we realize that it's ourselves that we only have dominion over. We can't change anybody around us. We can only work on and change and heal ourselves. And in doing that, beautiful things start happening to people. So in my sessions, I take them on meditations. I invite them to meet with their inner child in the situation that perhaps brought up this belief. And we talk, we have a dialogue, and it's beautiful. There often becomes an understanding that results from that. And it allows the client then to observe themselves when these triggers, I like to call them triggers. When these
Hmm.
triggers happen, and then I teach them how they can step outside of themselves and observe the situation without the emotions attached to it, without reacting. Um, yeah, we do lots of things. We do lots of things. I recommend books to read. I give them homework, things that I like them to do on a daily basis. I'm really big into meditation, um, teaching them how to meditate, how to ground, how to call back their own energies. So the sessions that we do are very much um, casual. It's not structured in any way. I'm led by spirit. Often the things that come out of my mouth, I can't even recall saying, especially if they want me to repeat something. It's like, I don't even know what I just said. So it's actually, it's lots of fun, and it, I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. And when I see my the change that happens in my clients and how happy they are and how their whole life blossoms around them, it just brings so much joy to me in allowing myself to help them. They're doing all the work. I'm
Hmm.
just helping facilitate it. And it's just beautiful.
So it's about liberating us from ourselves.
100%.
Yeah.
We get our own way.
Hmm. It's I really like there was a thing that I used to say that we need to overcome in order to become, and this is a process of becoming.
Yeah.
And as we spoke earlier before we were recording this, it just like we become more real as we age. We become more vulnerable. We become in some ways more raw, yet we become more expansive. And that's where deep sit comes in, like
Yeah.
really gets being in the deep sit of life, because the reality of how it's so short, it's a blink, is becomes just almost like a, it's pungent,
Mhm.
it's quite interesting. So I love that you're doing all of that. So um people that come to you are coming stressed or despondent or lonely or fretful. How do you deal with
Or they
that?
have health issues, right? Or they
Ah.
have something that's happening in their life that they feel they don't have any control over. They haven't
Mhm.
received any true healing through other modalities. Some of my clients have been to regular counselors for umpteen years, and what we do in our sessions in 6 months surpasses everything that they've done in the last several decades. And and they're the first ones to tell me, it's like, why didn't I find you years
Mm.
ago? And that's a really beautiful thing. Excuse me, beautiful thing to hear, because it really confirms what I'm doing. And yeah, it just brings me joy.
There's something in what you said that I really agree with. I agree with all of it, but there's something there about that, and this is nothing against counseling or a psychologist, anything like that. What I hear too in my work, whether it's the health or the energetic works that I do as well, um, is that more and more people are actually willing to examine whether that is a fit. Even, people will come to people like you and me and go, not a fit. And that's fair. I love that people are so discerning now, so that,
Yes.
and they are trusting where they are led. And so they already have a degree of trust when they come to you.
In some cases, yes, but in other cases, it's more out of exasperation, like
Hmm.
desperation. They've just been looking everywhere, and their life is falling apart. And someone told them about me, and so they're going to give it a try. And sometimes it takes months to break through the barriers, because everybody has walls up for their own protection from childhood. And so the environment that I provide for them is very much like this. It's over Zoom, and as I hold sacred space for them. I give them 100% confidence in the confidentiality of the sessions. I give them a safe place to really bare their soul, you know, just verbalize their deepest concerns or, or their darkest moments. And then we work through that without shame or guilt or judgment. And it's a beautiful experience when you can see the relief that comes from just even verbalizing something that has happened to them that they've told no one, that they can't deal with on their own. And it's and that's like the first stage of their healing, is just observing themselves in that situation, understanding that it was nothing that they did that caused this.
Mhm.
I feel everything, excuse me, everything that happened, everything that happens in this life is for our lessons, it's for our learning, either for us directly or the people around us. I don't believe in coincidences at all.
So this is like when I said that they trust you, if even there's only a sweet wee morsel of trust, like the fact that they picked up the phone says that they are trusting that nudge, they are trusting that phone number they got. And then after that, it's a relationship that you so sweetly develop with them,
Yeah.
that where you earn their trust. And also they begin to trust themselves within that sacred space. So they can
Mhm.
open to kind of unravel the wounds or the stuckness or that
They
ache
also
inside.
Right. And they also gain a confidence that they've never had before. In a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cases, um, how people have grown up and the things that have happened to them in their life. And this can also be ancestral, but it could be handed down through generations, or it could be something that's happened in their own life. They feel very suppressed in everything that they do. They have no confidence to stand up for themselves. And we work through that. We give them the confidence, the divine and I. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because we're working in partnership. So it is the mind, body, and soul. Everybody's working together because really we are all one. Our souls all know each other. And yeah, some of the most fun and impactful meditations that we've done is meeting somebody. If you're having an issue with somebody, perhaps an abuser, right? And you need to verbalize what's on your heart, just to let go of the energies that you've been holding. But they can't imagine that person standing in front of them because all kinds of anger and fear comes up. Then what we do is a meditation looking at their soul. So we do a soul to soul conversation. And it's really beautiful because they can get past so much just by doing that. And again, just another step. And I like to say too that when I'm doing these sessions with the divine for the clients, it's all done in incremental steps that allow for, hold on a second, I'm going to mute myself so I can cough.
Mm-hmm.
This is German new medicine coming in here now. We can talk
Yes.
later. But it allows them to take incremental steps and then the integration before they can go to the next steps. So they're never offered more information or um, more information or teachings than they can handle.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, they can go really fast. It's like, it's amazing how quickly they can progress. And other people, it takes a little longer. And there's no right or wrong. It's all perfect. It's all perfect timing. Everybody is divine everybody has their own timetable and their own way of doing things and absorbing the things around them, like the teachings and the learnings. Yeah.
How often would you slow somebody down who seemed to be just like bolting through everything? Is that something that happens?
It doesn't happen very often. And in fact, if they are able to handle it, if they're capable of it, they've done lots of reading and they've already got a foundation about energy and they understand the concepts. I don't slow them down. We just keep going. Um, if it does tend to be too much, it comes up as as an event that has happened in their life that they had to put the brakes on because they couldn't handle the situation. For the clients that I have weekly for, like I start with like a 3 months package. If they're having issues between sessions, I'm there, to contact with text messages or email or phone call if they need help in managing or mitigating a situation for their own spiritual well-being. So I do offer that for those clients. And then once they graduate from that 3 months package, sometimes they choose to repeat it and they'll do it again. Or then they'll go to maybe every other week. And it's whatever works for the client in where they are in their spiritual healing journey.
Do you get people, well, I'm sure you do, but let's talk about the people who live above life and just dip in every once in a while? Because it's always really interesting. And that's when I spoke of people really kind of blasting through. It's like they do that so they don't fall into the pit holes or the memories
Yes.
or the imprints that are kind of chasing at them.
So we are very careful about ensuring that the person is not doing any spiritual bypassing, like,
Ah,
right? So
love it.
everything is good and wonderful and I'm always going to keep my vibration up. Well, that's not real. That's not real. When you have sadness, when you have grief, when you have sorrow or anger, it's really important to acknowledge those emotions. Acknowledge them. Just sit with them. Sit with that emotion. What is this about? Analyze it. Let it just fill you. If that involves tears or screaming into a pillow, do that, but then allow it to flow through your heart. Um, Suppressing the emotions is one way of manifesting illness in your body.
Mm.
Um, that's where German New Medicine comes in. I do a little bit of that with my clients as well. So if people continually suppress their emotions because they want to maintain this superfluous uh, positive lifestyle and attitude in everything that they do and ignore the real emotions that are happening in their life or that they're experiencing, um, yeah, if you do that often enough, the body is going to give you a message. It's like, okay, you got to deal with this. You can't keep pushing us away. This problem keeps coming up and you keep suppressing it. It's going to manifest in your body as a message that's going to get stronger and stronger until you can't ignore it. And some of my clients are dealing with that already. They've been to that point. So it's taking time to unravel and to understand how this has happened and what we can do to lessen the vibration that's causing that to be um, manifested there.
Can we talk about like traumas? Because you deal with traumas, you've experienced your own traumas. And may I ask what your definition of trauma is?
Okay, so trauma doesn't have to be anything horrible. It doesn't have to be like physical or mental abuse. A trauma is anything that the body, mostly we're talking about childhood, we're talking about anything that causes the child to sit back and suddenly decide for themselves they need to do something different. We don't want to experience this experience again. So it could be something as simple as a stern look that the mom gives the child when they're doing something. And depending on how sensitive the child is, that look could be completely crushing to their soul and their spirit, so that they realize, or that they understand in their young mind, that my mom only loves me if I'm not doing this. I have to not do this ever again if I want my mom's love. So as they grow up, because when children are young, so from age 0 to 7, we're basically sponges. We don't have the neuroplasticity or the mental capacity to discern even what's correct or not correct. We can't discern what's right or wrong. Everything just is, and everything is the truth. So children absorb everything around them, what's said, what they see, what they hear, what's happening in the world around them. That becomes their truth. And from that area is where our beliefs are created. So the traumas can be anything that the child perceives as, don't do that again, I'm not good enough, or that's where, I'm unworthy. You know, I want mom to pick me up. I'm feeling really sad, and mom's just rushed in from the office and she's rushing around making dinner and she doesn't have time to pick me up. And it's like, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of my mom's love. Like, she's ignoring me. I'm feeling abandoned. And it's just for that split second. But if that happens over and over, it just confirms this child's belief that they're not worthy of their mom's love. So the trauma doesn't have to be like physical abuse or a beating or anything like that. Sometimes the worst abuses are the mental perception of the child. And that's what I call traumas. And other people will have different terms for it, but it kind of encompasses everything. It's kind of an umbrella term for me.
So listening to what you've been saying here is that as children, just to reflect back what I heard. So as children, we can and often do misunderstand based on our ability to understand or to
To
kind of take
reason.
to reason, to take in all the information. So we have this misunderstanding, and that can stick with us or it can be rectified as we go on. But so it's actually our perceived trauma, I think, would be fair, right? Because
Yes.
it can't be 100% clear. And so how much of the perceived trauma is dependent on all the conditioning that we experienced as well? Because actually, if we know that every time you spill your milk, boom, down goes your dad's hand, and then the screaming starts, then we're conditioned that to spill your milk is a horrible thing which could have dire consequences. That is part of the conditioning. So is it traumatic? Well, it's verbally, yes. Did anything ever happen? Well, no, besides that. But we perceive the threat that something might. Is that what you're speaking about?
The perceived threat and um, the perceived knowledge of oneself, because it always comes back to oneself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the child feeling inadequate or insecure or unloved based on the condition and the situation around them. Children only want love. We all only want love.
Yeah.
Everybody just wants love. But a child's world is very small, and love is the only thing in the forefront of that child's life. They don't have a job or responsibility. They don't have to do anything. All they know is love and not love.
In your work with people, how important are the details of the perceived trauma?
They help, but they're not essential. They're not
Mhm.
essential in that we can go back to meet the inner child and have a conversation, and we don't necessarily need to have the specific um, point where this actually started, because oftentimes it's kind of a repeated pattern. So, when talking with my clients, I'll say, oh, 5 years I felt like this. So it starts with, something's triggered them in this life, in this world that they're in right now. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, when did you feel that emotion before? It's like, oh, you know what? 5 years ago, something similar happened. I felt the same way. And I says, well, let's go back a little further. Like, let's go back. When was the first time that you remember ever feeling this way? And oftentimes they know it's in childhood, but they can't pinpoint the exact moment. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But what we're doing is we're bringing their awareness to how they're behaving today to
Mhm.
something that happened way in their childhood
Mhm.
that has no place in being who they are right now. So this little inner child is still trying to control the show, trying to protect them from a perceived danger that it's not really necessary anymore. But that inner child, it worked for so long with that wall up,
Mhm.
that that inner child, that part of ourselves that wants to protect ourselves from harm or embarrassment or sorrow or trauma or like pain, will always surface until
Mhm.
the adult in us understands that this is what's coming forward, and that incident or incidences that happened when we were children needs to be healed. There needs to be
Mhm.
coming in an understanding needs to come here, where that little inner child it's not needed to be
Mhm.
quite so strong. We'll always be together. Our inner child is always with us. But you know what? Speak to her, talk to
Cute
her.
little thing, right?
Let her
I mean,
know, "No,
yes.
I got this. I got
Yeah,
this.
I got
I'm
it.
okay.
You're
I'm okay.
good.
Come along, please, but I
Yes.
don't need you to speak up right now. You can just observe." And just kind of that kind of talk, it sounds kind of ridiculous to some people, but it really hits an emotional part inside of us that needs
Mm.
to be acknowledged. And I have to say it works. It works for so many people.
When things aren't rectified, and that's what you're doing is help us to see you're creating altitude so that we can view things from a different perspective. And when we're on our own, we can, I call it kind of that we hang out in the house of suffering. We agree, no, there's no more. I'm just gonna, yeah, this is it. And so we deny, we avoid, we settle, we suffer, and we redirect or project all that comes our way just because, or things that come our way because we don't believe we have the capacity to be more.
Yeah.
And you know, basically what you're doing in such a beautiful and kind way is welcoming people to up their game, welcoming people to their lives, which is so beautiful to be the conduit and the facilitator of such an event.
It's thank you for saying that, because I truly feel blessed to be in this position that I can assist people with their healing and changing their lives. And I have to say I just absolutely love when, because a lot of what I do is also reminding them, people when people get trapped in a situation where they become immediately emotional and reactive. I teach them how to step back. I teach them how to mitigate their vibration, whether it's too high to bring it down or it's too low to bring it up. And it's really beautiful to see them. You can see the wheels turning
Nice.
when they get that aha moment. And it's such fun. It's such fun for both of us. It's like, "Oh my gosh,
Absolutely.
I never knew this before. This is, like, so simple and so great," and
Oh,
yeah, it's just such fun.
So you're cultivating awareness so that we can basically get out of our minds. So you're
Yes,
taking the healthy parts of the mind and leaving the misperceptions over there and connecting the mind and the heart,
we're
which
connecting the
opens
mind
the
and the heart.
soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're also creating new neural pathways. I'm
Mm.
teaching them to think a different way, to look at things from a different perspective, kind of to zoom out instead
Hmm.
of being in the thick of it, to zoom out, look at the big picture. And in doing that, we change the way we think about situations. And that's beautiful. That's
So
beautiful because we've been
beautiful.
so conditioned to think a certain way our whole life, and it's worked. It's worked for us, or so we thought.
I was going to say, or so we thought.
Right,
So,
until their life starts falling apart around them.
right. I love how, basically you welcome people also to their own shadow dance because we are
Mm.
very high light, and high light has many shadows or produces many shadows. So you invite them to just dance with the shadows as they dance with their light. This is huge. And I
Yeah,
think when we realize that we are perfectly imperfect, and that there actually is no perfection, um, and it's okay to walk amidst the weeds.
yeah,
That's an okay thing to be up to. And
yeah.
you are also, what I'm hearing is you're inviting them to be light, kind, and forgiving, with how it's gone. And it's not to dismiss that they haven't traveled a journey, but you're, um, opening the door to actually non-attachment with regards to how it went, because that's history. We're not that yet.
Right.
It is an imprint that by acknowledging that imprint, that's already part of the path and part of the moving forward. And,
So a lot of what I do as well is forgiveness.
mm,
We do a lot of work around forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others. And we do that through meditation. And that also comes with an understanding of who we were back then is not who we are right now. And having compassion for that person back then because they were doing the best they could. Have compassion for that person. They just did the best they could. They didn't know any better. And so allowing yourselves to see how you were in the past, because a lot of people come with shame and guilt, and a lot of things that have happened or that things that they even did in the past brings about a lot of shame and guilt and they've carried it forward in their whole life. But then allowing them to see that person is different. Every day we're different. We're not the same person yesterday as we are today. But seeing them, 10 years ago, definitely you would not do the same things today that you did 10 years ago. Can you have compassion for that person? They did the best they could. When you have compassion, that's the first step in learning to love yourself. Because for some people, loving yourself is way too big of a step. They can't even look at that. There's no way I can love myself. So we start small. We start with compassion and understanding, and then we build on that. And it's really forgiveness is a huge part in healing. Huge part.
what is that Hawaiian thing?
The
Honopono.
Ho'oponopono.
Is that how you say it? Ho'opono.
Ho'oponopono? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't say it. I would have to practice a few times.
Yeah.
But that's that really works well for people. It's based on the same premise of forgiveness.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah.
It's like, I love you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. Those
Mm,
four
yes.
sentences in any order. So whatever order works for you, and you can add to the end of that, or you can just leave it as that. So when people are first starting with the Ho'oponopono meditation, and they say, "I'm sorry," I'm sorry for expecting myself to behave a certain way. Like they can add their own
Hmm.
ending to it. Or if that's too much, they can just say, "I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And you do that over and over and over. And sometimes as you're doing it too, things will come into your head, you know, please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. And then you just keep doing it, and it's like you feel into it. So that's the big thing about, about healing, about manifesting, all of those things. It's all about the emotions attached. So we can wish as much as we want. If we don't attach the emotion, the spiritual and emotional component to it, it's just words. So we can speak all we want, and although everything is energy, words are things, thoughts are things, and they do manifest things. If you really want to be impactful, you have to put an emotion to it. So when you're saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you, feel those emotions to be completely true, that there's nothing else in the world that matters in this moment except those words, those emotions, as you reflect them on yourself, or in some cases, other people. Oftentimes, people can't forgive themselves, so we work first with forgiving the other person in the scenario. So we're working a little bit backwards that way, but we get to the point where we do forgive ourselves. And then that comes with compassion. Then we have compassion for ourselves, and then we learn to love ourselves. And it's about letting go of judgment, understanding that people are exactly where they're supposed to be in this journey in life. And everything that's happening in and around you is meant to happen in and around you for your own lessons, your own learning. And it's beautiful when people catch themselves judging, because I'm very big on releasing judgment about others and about yourself. That's a really hard one. We've been trained, we've been brought up for years to judge everything around us. Oh, look what she's wearing. That's horrible. That looks horrible on her.
You don't like my shirt?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's like,
Like,
what?
yeah, who are we to judge, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're looking at when we look at the universe, and on the spiritual level, we are all one. We are all one. So the homeless person on the street could just as easily be us. The woman who's got the screaming child in the supermarket, that could just easily be us. Once we put ourselves in situations like that, with that understanding that we all share this earth together, we all share, our souls all know each other, we release the judgment around that person's life. So when I see somebody who is in dire straits, I'll take a scenario of a homeless person who looks very unwell, and I'm not above helping that person, with,
Mhm.
food or whatever. But I also, in my mind and my heart, I'm saying, wow, you chose a really difficult journey this trip around. And just understanding and looking at life through that perspective allows you to be more loving and compassionate to everyone around you, and releasing the judgment, because who are we to judge? Nobody's perfect.
It's looking at that who we see is a reflection of us.
100%.
So
100%.
somewhere, whether this lifetime, other lifetimes, whatever your belief system is, that there is an aspect of them that
Hmm.
is there for me to reflect upon, to contemplate. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean I have to fix them. I'm not there to do that. That's not my job, because as you indicated, of course, they have their own path. And one statement that really helps me when I feel judgment coming in, because this time astrologically, it's like, what? Like, where are these thoughts coming from? And it's, who is the I that is thinking the thought?
Hmm.
That for me is just really powerful when kind of those sorts of thoughts come in. It's like, oh, they should get a job, or, if we're talking the homeless, or put on a different
Right,
shirt, or um,
right.
be different than they are. Who is the I?
Yes. Well,
Eh,
often the ego comes in
mm,
and has a very big voice. And this is all about taming that ego voice, learning to speak better to yourself. Be careful of the words that you say to yourself because your cells have consciousness. They listen. They listen to what you're saying. If you're constantly saying, oh my gosh, I'm so ugly, I'm fat. Well, you know what? Your cells are going to listen to that. Let's store more. She wants to be
mhm.
fat because that's what they listen to us, which reminds me of the first time that I met you and you were doing the blood analysis and I was looking at the cells on the monitor and it was like I saw the cosmos in there. They were all communicating and it was like it was a spiritual experience for me. It was like totally chokes me up when I think about it. It's like there's consciousness happening there. They are
Mhm.
communicating with each other. It was such a beautiful thing to see. And that's exactly what happens with our thoughts, because our thoughts stimulate what's happening in our body. So that's why it's really important to catch that internal dialogue, the roommate, so to speak.
The roommate, that's a good one. I like that.
That's from a book that was a
Mm.
catalyst in my journey. It's called The Untethered Soul. I'm sure you've heard
Oh,
of it.
I've read it probably three
There you go.
times.
Yes. So I've had this book was recommended to me ages ago, and I had it on my nightstand for literally 3 years. I would pick it up, start reading it, couldn't get into it, put it down. I would do that many times. Suddenly one day I would pick it up, start reading it. I couldn't put it down. I absorbed it like it was like a sponge. And it was because I wasn't ready. I wasn't
Mhm.
ready for that information in my spiritual journey. I wasn't ready to absorb it. And even now, if I go back and read it, I get way more out of it, even now. So
Yes,
that
powerful.
they talk about the roommate there as being the
Yes.
internal dialogue, right?
It's been a
And I
while
love
since I read it, so I must read it again so I can find that where the roommate thing is. That's funny. Um, yeah, and I went to a second book, the Surrender Experiment,
hmm
and bought it out of the bookstore, started reading it, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I think I just wasted $23 or whatever it was. And I did the same thing back and forth and back and forth. And then it was my new favorite book once I got into it. And then I have Living Untethered. It's on my shelf. And I keep looking at it. I've read parts. I know I have to start it again. But it's interesting how I have a push-pull relationship because it's so profound and it waits for me. I just always go, there's going to be a right time, you know? It's interesting that things that can really grow us, they just need to sit on the shelf for a little bit until the moments are right. And that's part of our
100%.
humanness. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what I've been doing lately though is I've been getting audiobooks because I can
Oh.
do things around the house and I can listen to it. But inevitably what happens is that I end up ordering or buying the hard copy because I love books. I'm a
Yeah.
bookaholic. I love opening a brand new book and the pages are crisp and it's
Mm.
clean and then I proceed to mark them up with highlights and comments in the
Yeah.
margin and stuff.
Me
But that makes
too.
them mine. It makes it mine, right?
Yeah.
Then they become part of me. But yeah, so I listen to the book on audio first and then I have to order the book or bring it in or buy it from somewhere so I can highlight the things that are
Mhm.
mind blowing in my
Yeah.
in my world.
Oh, I love that we're similar in that way. It's so fun. My kids make fun of me and just say that, every book is like a workbook. I always have my pen and my all my things ready to go.
That's so
Yeah.
true. That's so
So
true.
I just want to jump ahead here a little bit because our time is like running. I would invite you to speak about German New Medicine. I believe your training is way more than mine, and I would just like to hear how you integrate it. And first of all, what it is for those who don't know.
So German New Medicine was discovered, I'll say discovered by was I think it was an oncologist in Germany, a doctor in Germany, who
Dr. Hamer.
Dr. Hammer, yeah, he suddenly developed testicular cancer after his son was unexpectedly and accidentally shot dead. So he, in his mind, and he was always very inquisitive, thought because he's a healthy man, he was very active and fit, there was no possible reason why he should have developed testicular cancer. So he put together that there must be some sort of connection between the grief that he suffered after his son died and the development of this, or the manifestation of this cancer in his body. He was really fortunate because he had a whole hospital of patients that he could interview, and he was able to pinpoint specific cancers related to specific emotional conflicts, he called them. And for instance, breast cancer is like it's a nesting conflict. It's like being torn from the breast. It's like the death of a child. So in a woman, it would be that. In a man, it would be testicular. But the child could also be a pet, or loss of something that was your life, like your job, for instance. If you suddenly lost your job and you were unable to grieve properly and move those emotions through you, but they manifested instead as a breast cancer. I know for in German New Medicine, like a lung cancer is a death fright. So we create cancers all the time, and our body gets rid of them all the time. It's when the repeated or the unhealed emotional traumas are not addressed, or that's when they manifest in the body. So oftentimes German New Medicine comes in my practice when I'm talking with my clients, because something will come up, like their lower back is suddenly sore. They were at the gym and now their back is like super sore. It's a move that they've always done before, but it's never happened that they've, wound up with a sore back. Well, the lower back is related to financial distress. So if you're having financial problems, or you're taking on the burden of finances, that will manifest in the lower back. Just like the middle back is all about guilt and shame, taking on that. And so we work through those. And it's quite funny because we never really talk about the pain or the illness per se. It's all about the energy around it, what created it. And that's how I use German New Medicine in my coaching with my clients. And it's pretty funny because, and I say funny because it's always, it surprises me and it always delights me. Once you recognize what the pain is there, what the message is behind the pain, you already start to heal from it. So it's until you recognize what it is that's manifested in your body, it will continue. It will get worse and worse and worse until you can't ignore it anymore. And yeah, it's really fun. It's like one of the most fun parts that I do. Well, everything is. I love everything.
Everything's fun.
Everything's fun.
I really love the connection. Like there's nothing can happen without an emotion, as you alluded to at the very beginning. And when I look at people's blood, for example, is to also acknowledge that there is a strong emotion behind. And what's really interesting, it's like there are kind of times or little pockets of time where different things will come to fruition. Like I'll have a run of breast cancer patients, or I'll have a run of thyroid issues, or really severe IBS, things like that. And most people have a little bit of understanding about that already. And some have really deep understandings, but those who have, that are ready, it just is this huge pop of awareness. And, there is such, oh, gratitude for their kind of stepping into that space with me. And I really hear that with you too, and can feel, it has an exhilaration of its own. And because there's an introduction to two aspects of self that they just made the connection with. It's pretty cool.
You know what's really also very cool? Working with the divine and so forth. A lot of the things that happen in my client's life actually are reflected in my own life.
Mhm.
And it's not by chance that this happens. So if I have 3 clients in a row and it's the same issue coming up, I know that to be a message for me to look at my own crap. Okay, what's going
Mhm.
on here? So I've had 3 clients with this. I have to examine myself. Why is this coming up in my sessions? So it's twofold. It's one's for them to help them, mitigate and heal around that, but it's also a message for me. Maybe it's time I look at my own fitness level or my own kidney function or something like that. And
That's why I
that,
love doing this, right? Is that
yeah.
we constantly have the reflection back saying, oh, might be time to check in with those kidneys, or whatever it is. And there's always the right person up, like on the other side of us, or sitting in the chair. And I really trust that, and I hear that you do so much as well, because we keep exchanging chairs, teacher student, and it's pretty grand. So, not to rush things along, but we are coming to the end here. I want to hear about how you integrate essential oils, the crystals, the cards.
So I tune into my clients before every session, and I use several different oracle decks, and I ask their guides, I call their team. I ask their team to pull some messages specifically for my client for that day, and inevitably, so they pop out. I say,
Mm.
okay, okay, this is it. Um, we go over the cards at the end if there's time. If not, I just send it to them with
Mhm.
the reading. And when I use crystals and essential oils when I'm doing Reiki on my clients.
Mm.
So I do like a symphony of the cells, or I do an aroma touch with them, and then I incorporate Reiki as well. So the essential oils is up to 9 different oils done in succession, um, for specific things that target something in their body. So the oils, I absolutely love working with oils.
Mm.
Everybody knows they work on a physical level, 100% on a physical level, but they also have a very spiritual and emotional component that most people don't realize. And that's what I like to work with. So a lot of the protocol that I use for the essential oils, it deals not only on the physical, but the emotional and spiritual aspect. And then oftentimes I'll have them hold crystals in their hand. If they needed more grounding, I'll give them you know, uh, a dark stone to hold, or if they need their heart opening, I'll have them hold like a pink quartz or something like that. I also use stones when I help to open their chakras or balance their chakras. And yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell.
Mm. Thank you. So this all gets transferred onto a canvas, like all your downloads and your inspiration and creativity ends up in a beautiful painting that we can see, bits of on your website. It's just lovely. Like, you are
It's
so
fun.
talented. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I I told it's painting for me is almost like a meditation. It's I lose myself in the moment and I become completely present in what I'm doing. There's no room for, worrying about the to-do list or anything like that. When I'm painting, I am totally immersed in painting. And it's finding the joy or finding the things in life that bring you joy. And painting is one of the things that brings me joy. It's so much fun, and I'm learning all the time. I'm taking workshops all the time, and
Nice.
I always learn something from it. And that's my purpose. I love learning. I have to learn something new every day. Not that I have to, but I enjoy learning. So even this experience is my learning. My learning experience for today is just being in this podcast. This is my first, and I was
Yay.
pretty nervous starting, but
How
yeah,
are you now?
I'm great.
Okay, good. That would be my perception of you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, this was fun. This was so much fun.
Oh, I'm so glad. It was fun for me too. How can we get in touch with you? What is the best way?
I have a website. It's, oh my gosh, it just slipped my mind.
Transmuted journey?
Transmuted,
Oh,
Transmuted Journey. It's about changing people's lives. Yeah, transmutedjourney.ca is my website. Yeah, just check it out. I've got some of my paintings in there. My one daughter just graduated from graphic design, so I was one of her first clients to set up the
oh,
website.
it's
And
beautiful,
yeah, thank you. Thanks. She did such a good job.
didn't
And
she?
yeah, I'm so proud of both my daughters. And my other daughter, personally, she's just finishing her holistic nutrition, and she does essential oils and ionic foot detox soaks, and she's just a wealth of information.
Oh my
Both of
goodness, she
us,
is.
yeah, both
Yes.
of us have had a background in medicine, so both of us were in ultrasound and me in X-ray as well. So yeah, we come from a medical background, and that totally helps me in what I'm doing with my clients too, because I can understand when they're bringing their lab values to me, and the things that the doctor found for them. So that makes perfect sense for me. But I don't deal as much on the physical. I deal on the spiritual and the energetic um, environment around that.
Beautiful. Well, I would say that you really know what you're talking about. You've walked in the shoes of the, as your clients have, and as we all have, and as we get on to each phase of life, it's interesting to see how much we have acquired on our path, and
Yeah,
the depth of wisdom that you bring from all your experiences and education are just amazing. Thank you for you.
thank you, Maureen. It was just a pleasure, absolute delight being here.
I'm so glad to have you, and I really invite people to search you out and experience what is possible in their lives. And it's like a remembering, dismembering, and remembering of who we are on the
Hmm.
path of becoming, which is
Yeah,
what you do. And it feels so safe to be with you.
thank you, thank you.
I'm sure that's reflected back to you through your clients. So thanks, Denise. It's been amazing, and I'm glad your nerves. I always think, are you nervous or are you just excited? And it turned
A little
into,
bit of both.
yeah, it turned into a lot of excitement and passion. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you so much for this. Bless you.
Very welcome.